Siouxsie, I keep hearing herd immunity. Tell us about that, and can it protect the population?
Okay, so it's a vaccination strategy. It's not a disease strategy. If we let this go through, we won't have enough hospital beds, we won't have enough intensive care beds, and we won't have enough ventilators.
People will die, won't they?
Yes, it's insane.
Back during the ancient history pandemic days of anxiety, lockdowns and vaccine campaigns, there was one voice, apart from the Prime Minister and the Director General of Health, who felt like a ubiquitous presence on our screens and on our radios. Dr Siouxsie Wiles, a microbiologist from the University of Auckland, acclaimed researcher into infectious diseases and an award-winning science communicator, was never an official part of the COVID communications campaign. But her tireless willingness to say yes to every media offer of airtime, over 2,000 interviews over 2 years, helped hammer home important lessons about the risks to public health and meant that she was critical to the success of the first wave of Aotearoa's response. It also meant that when the public opinion tide turned, she had a target on her back. The new film, Misinformation, is an extension of a short documentary that was put online in 2020 as part of the excellent Loading Docs scheme. That was a much more celebratory story than the one we have now. Director Gwen Isaac continued to follow Wiles through 2021, culminating in the bizarre parallels of a New Zealander of the Year award at the same time as the hate mail and online harassment was becoming almost unbearable.
Siouxsie Wiles on the TV, she's made a few mistakes.
I think Siouxsie Wiles has shown a lot of care, a lot of compassion.
I've seen her, and you hear what she says, but I could tell you about it. It's not science, is it?
Very communicative, very technical, but very easy to understand.
I have scientists in my family and they totally disagree with what she is saying.
Personally, I don't like her as a character.
I mean, she's very out there, which is fantastic because she's obviously her own person.
Part of the communist movement, I think. Trained to lie.
Siouxsie's science does not align with our truths.
Wiles is a paradoxical figure. On one hand, she stubbornly insists on getting up at sparrow fart to try and school breakfast television hosts about the nature of infectious diseases, and at the same time she protests that she hates to be the centre of attention and wishes she'd never said yes to being in a documentary. Before COVID, the reasons why she was such a public figure were clear. Her bioluminescent superbugs lab at the University of Auckland is chronically underfunded, and anything she can do to draw attention to it helps meet the growing shortfalls. In the film, she tells some Victoria University students how every fee for public speaking she ever received is donated back to her lab. But there's also the fact that she's really good at it. Science communication, that is. Not many people are. So why shouldn't she continue to do something that she's excellent at? Well, it appears that the science community are conflicted. A loud, opinionated, pink-haired media star can't possibly be a good scientist at the same time. I'll leave you to discuss why those conclusions are held by so many on so little evidence.
A lot of the applications that I've submitted over the last 5 years that were rejected are all really relevant right now. For years, nearly 10 years, I've been trying to get funding for a project looking at how bacteria evolved to become more infectious. This is, so relevant in the pandemic.
I was quite shaken by misinformation, largely the reminders of that anxious time in early 2020 when we knew so little and feared so much. I hadn't quite realised the extent to which I've suppressed my own emotions around that episode, choosing to remember the unexpected positivity of the first lockdown and then the heady COVID-free days when we were the only country in the world to live life in relatively normal circumstances. But then the film and the country takes a turn. Opposition to the COVID response gets louder and less reasonable. Conspiracy theories take hold in the minds of people who once upon a time might have known better. People in government were relatively protected from the abuse that followed, but Wiles was independent and on her own. One day historians will use this film to tell the story of New Zealand's role in this dark period in world history. Somehow the greatest information technology advance ever has become this vehicle for misinformation, fantasy, bitterness and rage. Not for everyone, but for a few. The examples of the abuse that Wiles received during that period are apparently all genuine, and they are deeply offensive and deeply depressing. Instead of enlightenment, the internet has encouraged some people to forget the essential humanity of everyone on the other end of a tweet or an email or a phone message. "You kiss your mother with that mouth?" I wanted to say to some of them. But Wiles is mostly resolute in the face of the torrents of hate spewed her way. Standing up to bullying emboldens her, but for her caught in the barrage family, there are mixed feelings.
Easiest response to that is to set up a rule in your inbox that sends
Right, okay,
everything
so-
from her directly to the deleted file.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't like that as an answer.
Right.
If we just move the stuff to the deleted file and we don't see whether the behaviour is escalating, then there is no way to intervene, right?
Yeah, potentially you're putting yourself at risk, correct?
Yeah.
Speaking on an issue is going to lead to a lot of unpleasant stuff. Where she is this is something important and you're trying to silence me, right? And that, you know, I'm part of the world of men that's silencing women, and which I don't want to be part of. Yeah.
Where will it lead, though?
I don't know.
Misinformation is rated M for offensive language, and believe me, some of it aimed at Ms. Wiles is very offensive indeed. The film is in select cinemas across the Motu now.